episode is sponsored by Zoe.
Hi Clubbers, a couple of things before we jump into this episode. Friday's show has now moved over to our subscription on Apple Podcasts.
So please subscribe to the channel for your exclusive weekly wellness roundup show and to listen ad-free on every episode of Self-Care Club and 40ish.
Just hit subscribe and you will get exclusive access to all of this content. Hello everyone, I'm Nicole Goodman.
And I'm Lauren Nicole, and welcome to Self-Care Club, where this week we have tested out a silent retreat. Shh. Shh.
We can talk now.
Oh yeah,
We can talk now.
that is good.
Silent retreats are immersive experiences where participants engage in prolonged periods of silence and sometimes solitude. They're designed to promote introspection, mindfulness, and a deeper connection with oneself, often incorporating practices like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, and nature walks.
The absence of verbal communication allows people to detach from the distractions of daily life, creating a greater sense of peace and clarity. And to help us this week, we have enlisted Jo Kaye, who is a mindfulness coach and trainer who very kindly hosted us yesterday in her home and who we have brought to the studio to tell you and us everything that we need to know about silent retreats and also accompany us as we unpack our experience.
Which we don't normally do.
No, but we're doing it with you, Jo. And welcome to Self-Care Club.
Thank you so much.
So, Jo, can you tell us a bit about yourself and who you are as a meditation teacher and how you got into the whole practice?
Oh, where to start? Thank you for having me here today. I'm very excited to be here. A bit about me. I came from quite an alternative family. So my dad was a seeker, was always looking for the next kind of answer to the reasons why we're here. And my sister is very alternative. She very much followed his footsteps. Her name is officially changed to Rebecca Shaman. That is her her name now. And but I had a very conventional mum and a very conventional brother. So growing up in a family where there were kind of alternative views helped me to see that the way I was being brought up wasn't, the area I lived in my life wasn't the only way of being. And when I hit my 30s, I got to a point in my life where I'd done a lot of partying and was working in the corporate world and was not really where I wanted to be in my life at all. And embarked on a 10-day silent retreat.
Wow.
That was your first brush with it?
It was pretty much my first brush with it.
Was it like in a monastery in Italy?
Oh, nothing as glamorous.
Oh, because we kept looking at those and I was like, I can't hack that.
It was in Herefordshire.
It was in Herefordshire.
Were you meditating and practicing mindfulness yourself?
I had meditated in the past on occasion.
Wow.
10 days.
Silence with 10 and a half hours of meditation per day.
Do you talk to yourself, by the way, just generally?
More and more so. I'm noticing.
Yeah,
but
me
not,
too.
Not back then.
But did you
so
then?
much.
Did you talk to yourself?
Well, you're with loads of people.
Oh, so you couldn't.
Oh, no. Can't speak. And you share a room with someone.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Okay.
So you did the 10-day...
So I did basically, when I got to that point in my life where it's like, I have to change. Like, the problem is me. I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be, but I knew I was the one who had to start shifting my perspective and seeing things differently and managing my moods, my emotions. I was just always on a roller coaster, very up and down and very affected by everything around me.
Wow.
I wasn't very steady. I didn't really know who I was and what I really wanted at that point in my life. So it was like, I need this sledgehammer approach. I need this to really work. I really want my life to start happening. Mm. So it was a big, bold decision. And with these things, I think if you've got stuff to lose, if you really, this is it. This is almost like the last chance to really make a difference in your life. Because I tried other things. It helps because it's really hard work.
Yeah.
Sitting for that long and doing that. So I did this 10-day meditation retreat. It's called Vipassana. And that same year, I met my now husband. Maybe complete coincidence, but I genuinely think had I have met him before I'd done the Vipassana, I wouldn't have recognised his qualities and seen how he could be the yin to my yang, so to speak. Yeah. I really don't think I would have seen it. because he isn't what I would typically call my type, but actually is perfect for me. So then I also got made redundant from a job that I hated. Literally, it sucked my soul, this job.
What a gift.
Gift. I was like, the universe is really kind of starting to work here. But it was also about what I was projecting. So I genuinely believe what we put out, we get back.
Yep.
So I was feeling really like my life was starting to move forward. And I then got the job of my dreams very soon after in the energy sector, which was, in sustainability, which I was really passionate about. Fast forward a couple of years, had kids, got made redundant because that was what was happening in the world in those days. And I didn't then know what was next. And I tried a few jobs and nothing was quite feeling right. And I had very young kids, but I knew I wanted to do something meaningful. I'd always had a sense that I had something to give back, that I was here to make a difference in people's lives. And I didn't know what that was going to ever look like. I wonder now, looking back, why I didn't just go into psychology, become a psychologist or social worker or something, which I think would have suited me down to the ground, but it never really crossed my mind. So I went to hear Ruby Wax speak.
Oh, yeah.
And she launched her new book, Say New World. And she was talking about this MBSR program, mindfulness-based stress reduction program, which is over 8 weeks. And she was saying what a difference it had made in her life, because obviously she suffers from mental health problems and whatever. And I'm listening to her and I'm thinking, that's like Vipassana. What she's talking about sounds exactly like what I discovered through my Vipassana. So I went up to her afterwards. I said, this MBSR program, it really is familiar to me. It sounds like the Vipassana. She said, it is. It's the same thing as insight meditation is another word for it. So you're gathering insight into yourself, into your habits, your patterns. But it's taught over 8 weeks, 2 hours a week. So I thought, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I can teach that program, give people the gift of Vipassana, which I'd received, which whenever I told anybody that I was joking, I'm never going to do anything like that. And I could teach it from my home. I mean, I had my living room and I could facilitate this change in people's lives that I'd experienced. So straight away, MBSR program, how to teach it. And I found a school in Camden, which is very local to where I live. And even though the kids were really young, it was it just was magic. It just fitted. I started the course, and within a year and a half, I was teaching it.
Amazing.
And that was in 2016. And it's evolved.
Yeah.
It's evolved. I do so many different things now. But the MBSR program was the foundation.
Right.
That's what taught me how to teach groups, how to teach individuals, how to teach awareness training, essentially, which is what it is.
What do you think are the benefits of people coming and doing? So it was a day retreat that we did. But
Yes.
do you think are the main benefits of coming to do one of these days? What do people get out of it?
I mean, you guys were there yesterday, and we did a lot of talking at the end about what other people had received from the day, and it was quite a mixed bag. I mean, it depends what you're going in for. But what I would say is we live a very fast-paced life, very busy, always on the go, to-do lists coming out of our ears, never-ending stuff to do, barrage of news, difficult times at the moment in the world, having to navigate social media, if we're running businesses, how to promote, that kind of pressure to always be better. We were talking about this yesterday, that growth mindset, that sense of, are we ever enough? Parenting, adulting, working.
It's exhausting.
Wifing, you name it, with all the hats we're wearing, maybe elderly parents coming through, young kids, whatever. Teenage kids, actually, I should say, which has its own set of challenges. So we don't know how to rest. We don't know how to pause. We know how to go to bed at night and go to sleep, although a lot of people now struggle with that, obviously, because of our lifestyle. But we're so busy. And what we often say is, I just need some time for myself. But the reality of it is when we do, and a lot of people were saying this yesterday, they'll go and do the laundry.
Yeah.
They'll go and check their email.
There's always
something to do.
But
So
we don't
never
prioritise that rest, do we? We don't allow any space for it.
Exactly. We really don't know how.
Actually.
I genuinely think we've lost the ability to pause.
And why the silence, Jo? Why is that an important part of the retreat day?
Okay, that's a really good question because that means many things to different people. So can I use your example,
Yeah.
Nicole? Do you mind? So Nicole was saying how her household is very, very loud,
Yep.
very noisy,
Yep.
very frenetic. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. And actually sometimes that can be very overwhelming on our senses if our home life is quite loud. And so finding some silence to make some space to reflect on what's going on in our life, on things that we need to process, on, you know, what's important to us, and to reconnect with ourselves in a quiet space. So that's maybe one reason people might benefit from the silence. The other is, and I used this example yesterday, you know, sometimes if you're doing something like meditation, some people might have nice experiences. Oh, I saw the light. Oh, I felt like I was floating. Oh, it was really magical. That's unusual, if I'm honest. But if someone has that experience and shares it during a meditation retreat and the other person's just concerned that their knee hurts and their back's hurting and all they can do is think about lunch tomorrow and they're so distracted, they're going to be like, oh God, this is not working for me.
Yep.
And comparing.
Yep.
And we're natural comparators. Why wouldn't we be? It's part of being human. But it can take away from your own experience. So that's another reason. And I suppose the third reason is that capacity just to listen to ourselves. You know, I was talking a lot about subtle sensations yesterday, listening to the subtle movements of the body, the subtle sounds, the subtle feelings. And it's really hard to hear that when you're busy and noisy and talking and always thinking about what you're going to say next, filling this quiet, you know, because it's uncomfortable being in silence. And I know, you know, at the time of eating, some people find that really, really difficult, that being quiet when it's such a social occasion and you're with people and you want to chat and it can feel really awkward, but feeling awkward has information for us.
Yeah, of course
it's okay to be uncomfortable sometimes. And we spend a lot of our time trying to avoid being uncomfortable. And that's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Actually, our energy would be better spent learning how to be with discomfort. And that's a great training ground for that.
Do you see a common ground in what point people come to you and why they come to you?
That's a good question as well. Bearing in mind, the silent retreats are normally people who've done a bit of practice before.
Okay.
A bit of meditation practice
certainly
before.
A bit of meditation practice before. Maybe they've lapsed. Maybe they're looking to kind of reconnect with it. Very rarely do I get people who've never done anything before. It's quite a big leap to go from nothing to an all-day retreat.
That's what we did.
Yes, you did.
Well, no, we've meditated before.
Well, I didn't really do that.
Oh, you haven't meditated.
I haven't.
I have.
I mean, I offer a half-day retreat for people that want the taster of it.
Right.
And it's like only silence for a couple of hours. So it's a way in. But when they come to me for other reasons, normally it's, to be honest, a lot of it is because they've got to the point in their life where they realise they've lost themselves very often in their roles and responsibilities and can't find joy in daily life, or they've gone through a major change, a divorce, job redundancy, or they're maybe not sure what's next for them, or a bereavement, you know, kind of that, when they're ready to start that healing process to come to me. It could be someone who just has a really, really busy mind to the point where they can't think straight, you know, that overwhelm, stress. Maybe there's been a physical manifestation of the stress. Maybe they've been diagnosed with some kind of stress disorder, maybe anxiety, sleeplessness, heart palpitations. You know, a lot of people come to me saying, I just can't breathe anymore. I just so tight. So finding life so overwhelming. So that's main reasons people come to me.
Thank you. How were you feeling going into yesterday, Nicole Goodman?
Me? Oh, I was feeling very worried about it.
Why?
Because I don't like being quiet.
Really?
But I do crave peace.
Yeah.
In my life. And I was very worried about how I was going to be quiet all day.
With me?
I didn't really know what to expect. We're going to go through each practice and Jo's going to talk us through and then we're going to give our experience. What I think what I thought it was and what it was were two very different things.
Same.
I thought we were going to be like lying down and meditating all day. So I was very worried about that. I was
Right.
very worried about sitting still. I was
Yeah.
very worried about my body hurting, and I was just worried.
Okay.
How were you going into it?
I honestly had no idea that it was going to be any meditation or mindfulness. I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but it didn't even cross my mind that that was a part of it. I just thought we were going to go and be silent. And I hadn't really thought about what we were going to do in the silence. But the silence didn't bother me. But if you had told me, oh, it's going to be like mindfulness meditation all day, I would have been borderline hysterical about going, honestly.
Well, thank God I didn't tell
I'm
you.
I'm so glad. But then when we got there and Joe was like, and we're going to be meditating, I was like, what the fuck? What?
You see, that's
No.
you were at a little bit of a disadvantage then, because I had firstly, I know Joe.
Yeah.
So I brought Joe when
Into our orbit.
what happened was I saw your advert on Facebook and I said to Lauren, oh, this girl I know is doing a silent retreat.
Yeah.
We should do the silent retreat. And you were like, oh my God, we've got to do it. You were gung-ho about it.
Because we have been talking about doing one for ages. And when I have looked and done all the research, it's like 5 days in a monastery in Italy, 10 days.
Monastery in
It's
Italy.
always a monastery. And I'm
One
like,
day, darling,
but there's
you'll
no,
get to a
but
monastery
there's no
in Italy.
heating. No, I don't want to go because like there's no heating. It's all vegan. Like, no. They were always too long, too far away, and they looked too difficult. And then Nicole was like, it's on Sunday. I was like, we're going. Let's go. I was so up for it.
So I have done Joe's course before, the
MBSR.
MBSR, but it was a long time ago, wasn't it? It was pre-COVID.
yeah.
It was a pre-COVID world. Adam and I did it. So I know Joe. Joe came on my other podcast that I did many moons ago. So I've known Joe for many years, and I knew who Joe was as a facilitator. And
I did not.
You didn't know anything.
No.
And I know how Joe holds the space.
I went in blind.
So from that perspective, I was fine about it. So I knew there would be meditation and mindfulness. I just forgot to tell you.
Great, thanks. I also had a little bit of PTSD because, as we told Joe when we left yesterday, we did do a practice week quite a few years ago that was supposed to be a red tent day, but it was actually so bad, as in so badly facilitated and so awful that we never released, or we didn't even record the show because we had nothing good to say, and we don't really go around slagging people off. But my God, the comedy value in the day.
Oh, it would have made a great episode.
I
Anyway,
mean,
but
yeah,
we didn't record it.
So I had a bit of trauma about that because I was like, are we going to be wandering in the woods screaming at trees? And like, do I have to listen to Jo talk about like all her personal stuff and be her therapist for the day? Because I don't really want to do that. But it wasn't that.
No, it wasn't.
No.
So can you give us a bit of context about the day and how it's put together and why, I guess, it's the format that it's in?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So it is part of the MBSR program. So when you sign up to these 8 weeks, 2 hours a week, it includes an additional 6-hour silent meditation retreat. It's designed as part of the program. So between weeks 6 and 7, you tend to do this retreat day. So the structure is actually not my own, although of course I've adapted it over the years, but it is an MBSR retreat day.
Okay.
And if you were wanting to get certain credits for doing an MBSR program, you could come to my retreat day and it would qualify for that. So that's the context. So bearing in mind, that's why most people have had some experience by the time they come to these silent retreat days. But I open them out now because I don't do MBSR groups anymore.
Right.
I do individuals. So one of the ladies who was there yesterday had just finished an 8-week program with me, 1-to-1.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, I kind of knew I had to put on a retreat day for her. So then I open it up to the general public.
Right.
So
So
it
the
would be a hard
structure-
thing to do on its own, wouldn't it?
You couldn't.
No.
You couldn't. It would be so intense to do.
Yeah.
What, one-on-one?
Yeah, one-on-one. You
I know, it'd be really
couldn't
weird.
do it. No. I mean, there were 10 of us yesterday,
Yes.
which I think was a really nice number, but I wouldn't want more. And minimum I've done is about 5, and that's nice. Between 5 and 10, I think are good numbers. So the structure, as you felt, hopefully yesterday, is very structured.
Yes.
Very.
And we spent a lot of time talking, didn't we, at the beginning? Like, I like to really set the boundaries straight away and manage expectations. And I hope I did that.
Very much.
You absolutely did. Can you tell us a little bit about those expectations and boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, the first and most important expectation of any kind of retreat day like the one I was running is if you expect to enjoy it or feel relaxed during it or think you're going to have some sort of Zen experience or somehow have all the answers by the end of it, then you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah.
So the expectations I invited people to consider would be, you might be uncomfortable. You might hate some of the practices. You might wonder what the hell you're doing there. You might feel really self-conscious. You might, stuff might come up that's painful and uncomfortable. And, obviously I made it really clear that I'm always available to talk to anyone who's having any difficulties, and I explained how to do that. I think it's important to know, one of my most frequently asked questions is, do I talk? And how do people know what to do when they're on the retreat day? So yes, I talk a lot.
You didn't talk a lot, but it was very clear. You were guiding us.
Yeah.
What we were doing and when we were doing it.
Yeah.
And the sections between each different mode of practice were very clear. And I really appreciate that. Why is mode funny?
Because we've been doing this show for a very, very long time. And what do we call them every week?
Practices.
But there's a reason for that. Because we're practicing something. And I think that's lost on people. Because we expect ourselves to be good at something straight away. But this is a lifetime of practice. That's what it is. So there's no wrong or right. You're just working it out.
I had no expectations, and you did ask us all to sort of set an intention, or we all talked in a group about what we kind of wanted.
What was your intention?
I didn't have an intention, but I think, and I came in blind, so I didn't know what to expect. So I wasn't, imagining it would be one way or another way. But I think my general feeling was, which was weird because we'd just done this show about shutting up, the power of being quiet, a few weeks ago. And I said to the group that I was feeling like quite excited at the prospect of spending an entire day not being Michael Barrymore. Like no pressure to entertain, no pressure to chat to anyone. I could just shut up. And I felt like that would be a real relief and a very relaxing thing for me. Turned out it wasn't. But that was the only thing I kind of foresaw was that.
So your intention was to enjoy being quiet?
Yeah, or enjoy the not having the pressure of being with a group of strangers and befriending them and, chatting and all that.
Being the warm-up guy.
Yeah, that. Being the all-around entertainer.
Yeah.
That.
Okay. Hyping yourself up, aren't you?
I'm just the warm-up guy. I'm not the main act. It's different.
Oh, you're my main act.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, you guys.
I can't even remember what my intention was now.
Yours was like, I live in a very, very noisy house and I'm really going to enjoy some quiet and space. And you were also very worried about not being able to move around.
I was really worried about that.
But we did so much moving around.
Yes. Well, because my body hurts
I know.
a lot.
And you also don't like being still.
No, I'm not very good at it.
No. I'm really, really fucking lazy. So if you told us we have to lie on the yoga mat for 6 hours, I would do that.
Heaven.
Gladly, no problem for me.
So that was our first opener, wasn't it? That we all talked about our intentions and we introduced ourselves and we partnered off and we had a little chat with our partner. And then we all went round the circle and everyone introduced themselves and said what's brought them there.
Yeah. And everyone was very different.
Wasn't it?
Different reasons, different personalities, different stuff going on for everyone. Everyone was really individual.
And obviously we're not going to discuss what anybody else said because it is all very confidential and it remains a safe space. So we can only talk about our own experience and what we said, which we just have.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then talk us through the first practice, Jo.
So we went straight into some mindful movement. We were stood up and we just slowed everything down. So we did really slow movement practice, which for a room of many people who you could see, I mean, there was a lot of people there who clearly work out and are kind of quite into fitness. There was a Pilates teacher there. So it can be quite jarring.
Yeah, we basically did a bit of yoga.
We basically did a bit of yoga.
I wasn't expecting
but
that.
super slow.
I didn't like that.
But the
bit.
invitation was to continually check in to
It wasn't
what
really yoga, Lauren.
Totally was.
it was gentle stretching.
Balancing.
Yeah, thank you, Jo.
There was a bit of balancing.
There was some balancing. Anyway, it was something between stretching and yoga, but
Yeah.
it was, the invitation was to continually tune into the subtle sensations of the body, which we miss, and to have that body as an anchor to our attention, because we're constantly being pulled in a million directions with our attention, and we're actually getting less good at focusing. We're much more easily distracted now as human beings. And this is a muscle in the brain that we're practicing to notice where we've gone and what, coming back, playing with the edge of comfort and discomfort. Because studies have shown that where you play with that physical edge, what that does is it enables you to work better with your emotional edges and your, kind of capacity to cope with impatience.
Yeah.
And tolerance to pain and various other things. So when you bring curiosity to that edge of comfort and discomfort in movement practice, it's like I ran a marathon moons ago, but I think as a result, I have faith in my body. Like I have a capacity to gently play with my edge of capacity in my body.
Well, because you've widened that capacity.
Widened that capacity, exactly. So that's kind of, there is lots of studies behind that. So the invitation was to notice that edge, to play, to be playful as well. I really tried to, at that point, to bring a little bit of playfulness in, so playing with your balance a bit. I never like these retreat days to be too heavy. I try to bring a lightness of touch into it, because we can all take ourselves just a little bit too seriously sometimes.
Well, we can't, but others can.
But others can, maybe. But certainly in that type of day, I mean, one of the things I invited people to notice was that maybe we should approach the day like a finely tuned instrument, not trying too hard to make it perfect, but not too relaxed that we're not engaged. And that's a really delicate balance, isn't it?
I loved that, by the way. And that cue gave me such enormous permission to not try my best and not do my best and always have to push myself into trying harder. And you know what? There was one point where you put us in a stretch and it was kind of hurting and it was a bit uncomfortable, and I just put my leg down because I can, because I didn't want to bloody do it.
Yeah, and that's fine.
But
also,
lots of people don't. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't even realise they're following the instruction and they're pushing their body.
But the pushing,
The
I
pushing.
didn't want to push anymore.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put my leg down. So
Yeah.
I did. And that felt
Liberating. I
totally
bet.
liberating.
Lovely.
The smallest of things.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
but we don't notice this stuff
Yeah.
normally.
Yeah. Well, everything's too loud
Too
and
loud.
chaotic.
So it's space to listen more deeply to our body and almost give ourselves credit when we do something like that,
Yeah.
which we're rubbish at doing.
Yeah.
So that was the movement practice, and I went straight into a body scan.
How was the
Yes.
movement practice for you?
I mean, I was a bit irritated because I was like, oh my God, we're doing meditation and now yoga. Like, no.
We hadn't done any meditation yet.
Hadn't we?
No, we
No.
did an intention setting practice.
Oh, yeah. I mean, put me in partnership with people and make me talk about my feelings. That's a no for me.
Well, she didn't make you talk about your
No, I
feelings.
know.
She
We
made
did
you
that at the-
introduce.
We did that at the dreaming retreat.
Right.
didn't
She
we?
made you
I
introduce
nearly
yourself.
lost my shit at that point, didn't I?
You did lose your shit
Did
at
lose my shit.
that
Yeah.
point. And to be fair to you, I hadn't given you any summary of what was going to be happening.
No, so I kind of didn't know what was going to happen next or what was going on, but I just thought I'm just going to go with it. And also, I'm not going to beat myself up if I can't get into where I'm supposed to, in inverted commas, be. I'm just going to be how I am.
That's great.
I'm just open to whatever is coming today. I don't know what to expect. If I can, great. And if I can't, I just can't.
Fantastic.
That was my general feeling.
Good.
That's
That was exactly
called
right.
self-compassion. I love it.
Yeah.
Love that for you.
Thanks. So that was our first thing, yeah. That we
So
did, movement.
I really liked it. I really enjoyed that, but I love movement. So I was so happy that you'd started the day with a stretch, because I really needed to stretch my body. It was just delightful.
Well, it's the thing about these retreat days is it's a number of different practices, because you've got so many different people in the room. So you vary it. So for some people, that's the one that helps them to feel reconnected, and the other one is irritating. But the irritation
Is
has a
part
lot of
of it.
information for us
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
It's that, remember I talked about craving and aversion.
Yes.
When we feel irritated, there's an aversion. We don't want this feeling.
Yeah.
So how do we respond? More often than not, we get frustrated and angry, especially if we can't change it. And there's so much in our life we can't change. So we want to spend our life being angry and irritated. This is the choices that we have to make.
So the body.
This is the lesson.
Sorry.
Irritation has that to teach us.
Of
We
course.
can practice something different.
So the body scan we did lying down.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a little nap at that
I
point.
think I did
And I'm
too.
not going to
most
lie.
people do.
And I felt okay about that because the lady on the next yoga mat was snoring.
I think that was me that was
It
snoring.
wasn't you. It was the lady next
I'm
to me.
convinced it was me.
There were a
if it-
few snorers,
Okay,
I
well,
won't
I
lie.
couldn't
there.
hear you snoring.
I kept saying, and if you feel a little bit sleepy, you can always open your eyes and let some light in.
And I thought on like the third time you said it, I actually don't want to
Sort
open
of.
my eyes.
I'm just going to sleep. That's what I need right now.
I definitely drifted and I felt really bad. And I thought, I'm sure we're not supposed to be asleep. But then the woman next to me, these little gentle snores. And I thought, okay, she's asleep. So I'm like, that's fine if I'm asleep.
But
It's
it's the
interesting.
comparison,
Someone
isn't
else
it?
Yeah.
giving you permission.
Yeah. She gave me permission.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But interesting is when you look at that, can you see how revealing these
Of
moments
course.
are? It's like, oh, because someone else is doing it, it's okay. So how much of our life are because someone else is doing
I
it?
also hadn't slept very well the night before because my husband's got a cold. So I was
No,
tired.
I think it's a lot of people
You
do.
don't need
And
to
it's,
justify
No,
it.
but I
you
would
don't need to
normally be
justify
asleep
it.
at 12 or whatever time it was,
No,
10 in
but
the
body
morning.
scans are soporific.
Yeah,
and
it
that's
was
why they're
very-
What does
often
that mean?
help you
Sleepy.
to sleepy.
Right.
So that's why lots of people use them as bedtime routines.
Yeah.
You also have the most soothing voice.
Yeah, it was very soothing.
Someone at the end said you could say blah 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 and it would still be relaxing.
It's true.
It's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
It's true.
Yeah, it was very relaxing. It was
And
very
I think
nice.
it's a very intimate thing we're in podcasting, so I think about this a lot, having the right voice in your ear. It's very intimate and it has to, and your voice is just, everything is right. Everything works for me with your voice.
Yeah,
It
your
really-
tone.
Yeah,
Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say.
I mean it.
Thank you.
Really.
So we had a little nap.
So we had a nap.
Nap,
Yeah.
yeah. That was the power nap.
Yeah.
That was intentional,
Yeah,
obviously.
it was great.
And then we had a break.
Yeah.
Our first break.
Yeah.
And I said 15 minutes and then realised that everyone was still queuing for the toilet
Yeah.
after 15 minutes. So that became 20 minutes, which is fine.
Oh,
But
was
the
it?
breaks
Oh,
are
I
very
didn't know.
revealing because in the breaks, I mentioned this already yesterday, you get your cup of tea, you find your seat,
Yeah.
go to the toilet,
Yeah.
whatever. And then what?
You do
Well,
things.
Then you eat Twiglets, Jo. That's what you do.
Yeah, I put lots of snacks out.
Yeah,
for my
that was
retreat
very
days.
helpful because it was like a
Something
distraction.
to do.
Something to do.
But again, eating and smelling the food, having the food there is an opportunity to have a relationship with how you eat and how your urges to eat and grabbing food. And when you're not in a bad, just as a revealing way. So it's all intentional.
Yeah,
obviously.
of course.
But I like to make sure that everyone feels the space is serving them as well.
Yeah, what was interesting about the first break was that it felt very comfortable, to me anyway, even though everyone was in silence. But I also noticed that many people in that first break kind of gathered in the kitchen, even though no one spoke. There was a little bit of eye contact, but we kind of hovered a bit. And a few people did take themselves off separately to the living room and sat alone. But everyone else kind of hovered and it felt, it wasn't normal because it's not normal, but it felt normal.
really comfortable.
Yeah, it felt fine.
Yeah.
Felt fine.
It does. You'd be surprised. Like someone also mentioned yesterday that a lot of our communication is non-verbal anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, like 70% or something
70%.
crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So actually you can be in a room full of people not speaking but feeling like you're connecting in some
Yes.
way or another.
And communicating.
you get their
don't forget
vibes.
we'd already communicated. So I
Yeah.
haven't mentioned, but probably should now, that the silence doesn't come in straight away.
No.
So we have a whole session of getting to know each other, which I know we mentioned, but just to be explicit. And then I'm very clear about when the silence
Yes, you
starts.
are.
So if anyone has questions, they still have time to ask them. And I think that's really important because people are really frightened of the silence, of not knowing
Yeah.
if they're safe in that silence.
Yeah.
So I tried to make it a really safe space.
You did.
with silence.
You
Yeah,
did.
it was.
Because I was one of those people that was really worried and frightened about, it wasn't necessarily being silent. Well, I just didn't know.
Didn't know.
I just
I
didn't
know
know.
there's so many unknowns when you do something like
Yeah.
that, of course.
My,
and
yeah.
Yeah.
Only worry about the silence, because this happens to me a lot, is that I was going to laugh. and because you were going to make me laugh, and it was going to be so inappropriate, and that worried me, not because I would have been embarrassed about laughing, but I really was worried about kind of spoiling it for the other people there, because I thought they are here with, you know, all this good intention, and I'm like.
But you didn't, though.
No, I didn't. But I did have a worry that I would catch your eye or something would happen.
Lauren
and
and I both completely avoided each other
deliberately.
But you know, there was some
Deliberately.
laughing, and I think, you know, that does happen. I've never had anyone like laugh and like it be so
Disrespectfully.
disrespectfully. I've had people laugh because something funny happens, like
Yeah.
with the cat. I mean, I've got a cat.
The cat was very involved.
She was very involved.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep her out.
I was so
No.
happy the cat was there because it gave me something to focus
Distraction,
on.
yeah.
Gave everyone.
Yeah, so noticing
that.
how much we also crave distraction.
Yes.
It's so fascinating.
Yes.
And she's a bit of a character. But there were times people were laughing because of things that she did.
She would come up, right?
so
She'd
feisty.
stroke her. She'd like rub her whole
It's like
body
basically going
against
stroke
you.
me, stroke me, and then
then
she
she'd
strokes
go
her,
like-
and
and then she
then
like-
she swipes.
Then
I
she'd
know.
be like, "Fuck off!"
I
You're
know,
like,
she
"Hold
was.
on a second."
Everyone in my house hates her.
Yeah.
so
She's
my
very,
cat.
she's very,
She's only good with me.
she's
She
very
hates-
temperamental.
She's very temperamental. But for those who don't like cats, I can always lock her in a room, and I have done that in the past.
Okay,
But everybody reassured me they wanted the cat.
well, she was a nice face.
So I think there was no
actually,
one phobic.
No.
She was totally
no.
a part of the day.
So we had our break.
So we had our break.
So we had your break.
and Lauren and I were completely avoiding each
Yeah,
other. We
so
hadn't discussed that
avoiding
we
you.
were going to avoid. I just couldn't.
I knew I had to avoid
the
you.
problem is with you and me is that when we are together, obviously we don't stop talking.
because it's our job.
Well, but even outside of our job, we
Yeah.
don't stop talking.
No.
There's always something to say.
Always.
So to be in a room with you where I'm not allowed to speak to you,
With other people, it's impossible. It was so hard.
it's like
you were the hardest thing for me about the day.
your biggest challenge,
Yeah,
Nicole.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
yeah.
I just pretended you weren't there. to be
I
honest.
tried. I really.
I just
tried.
pretended you
You
weren't
did
there.
until you came and wound me up at lunchtime. But we'll go on to that later.
We'll go on to that.
Yeah.
So then after the break, you know, I make it clear we've got a minute to go, 2 minutes, whatever time for everyone to go to the toilet, finish whatever they're doing. And then we went straight into mindful walking at that point.
Yeah.
Yes, this
So-
was quite strange.
Yes.
I've done mindful walking with you before.
Yeah.
I have never done it in my life.
Most people have not.
Yeah.
And why would they?
Why would they?
It's not the most obvious way to spend your
Sunday.
day.
No.
But it can also be very revealing.
Yeah.
And it's a way of walking extra slow, basically. So you find a runway and you walk 10 steps one way and you turn around and you come back and you just repeat that. I think for many people, they struggle because obviously when we normally walk, we have purpose, we've got somewhere to get to, there's a reason for it. And this is walking just for the sake of
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
So it is pretty much the ultimate in just being,
Yeah.
which again, we want to be more like, but we don't know how to be more being.
And we're talking one step every like 6 seconds ish.
Never timed it, but yes, it
It's
could well be about
really
that. It's
slow.
super slow. I
Yeah.
mean, and again, it's your runway, and if you needed to speed it up, that was your choice. The invitation was to do it that slow because that's how revealing it can be.
Well, I watched your feet because you were directly.
We
in front
were
of
next to
me,
each other, weren't we?
And I watched how slow you were doing it, and I thought, okay, that's the pace.
Permission again.
Permission.
But also conservative conformist eldest child syndrome. So always want to like be doing it right. So I watched your feet. I was like, okay, that's the pace. So I walked and I thought, this isn't hard. I can do this. And then I had this real moment of imagine if someone was looking through your kitchen doors and saw 10 women walking up and down in slow motion in the kitchen.
Oh, I've done it outdoors.
They'd be
before.
like, what the fuck? And
Well, I actually had the cat staring at me because she wanted to come in. So she was outside and she was staring at me. So I was kind of seeing it through
she
the
was
cat's
giving
eyes.
you
Right.
eagles.
And I had that feeling of like, this is fine and I can do this and I get it. But also like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then I thought, it's fine. It's fine to feel like this. It's fine to be
Oh, I
a
love
little
that
bit
mental dialogue of
it's okay
Yeah.
to feel like this is a bit silly and
Silly.
it's okay to feel like this is a bit pointless. That's just a feeling. I felt it. Now the feeling's gone. Now carry on walking. So I just walked.
But that's what silence gives you.
Yeah.
You would never necessarily have really been so acutely aware of that mental conversation that went on in your mind if you weren't actively paying attention to it in that way.
no, I wouldn't have been.
Yeah. And that in itself is revealing. And that's the point. And that kind of, even that piece where, oh, this is not hard. I can do this bit. Which is,
You're like coaching yourself, aren't you? I hated the mindful walking.
Did you?
What, it hurt your back?
My whole body just felt in pain, and slowing everything down, and you're obviously have got the space and the time to focus on the physical sensations that are running through your body. And it made me realise just how much pain I'm in with my back, and how much I've just tolerate it and put up with it and get on with it. And I actually got quite upset, actually, especially when I was like, there was one leg when you're balancing. It was just so painful.
I was thinking about you also when I was walking, and I thought, I bet Nicole hates this. And I wasn't thinking because you were in pain. I was thinking because she does everything fast. Everything she does is fast. She walks fast. She eats fast. She exercises fast. She does the laundry fast. Everything is fast, fast, fast. And I bet she hates this.
Yeah, I did hate it.
But that's a lesson.
You would be right.
Yeah. But actually, that's a lesson for me, because I could have said, if at any point this gets too painful or physical, like I didn't know that obviously you have a bad back, painful for you, sit it out. Like, sit it out.
But
like,
it wasn't like so, because I walk all the time. So it wasn't
Yeah,
so
not like that,
painful
though.
that I had to sit down. It was more revealing that, wow, I'm living in a lot of pain. And that's kind of a good thing to know. I know that sounds ridiculous, because how could I not know? I do know, but I just get on with it and I tolerate it. Slowing that down just gave me more information.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be good information.
Oh no, very often it isn't, I'm afraid. That's the truth. Because we're blocking out the bad stuff. We don't want to see it,
because we're doing
hear
everything so quickly. So we don't slow down to notice, feel anything, because we just do stuff to avoid feeling anything, right?
So that was the mindful walking.
Yes.
What did we do after that?
So after the mindful walking, we
did a sitting meditation.
we did a sitting meditation. Yeah, it wasn't very long, and I didn't give a lot of guidance, actually. I did at the beginning, but I did try to bring in quite a lot of periods of quiet.
Now, I didn't say this yesterday in front of the group because I was a little bit embarrassed. But I'll
You're
say
going
it.
to say it in front of the general public now?
Yeah, because it's my job to tell the truth. It was only that at that point that I connected with the day. And I can't tell you why.
You did say that.
did
in front
say
of
Oh,
the
did
group.
I say
Yeah.
that? Sorry. Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, it took until then
To settle.
to like settle to
Oh,
get
yeah,
it.
I'm not surprised. You didn't even know why you were there.
No.
It was going to
really
take
didn't.
a while. I've never, ever had a situation
didn't
where
know
someone
you.
doesn't even know me, why they're there. I mean, I'm impressed you
handled it quite well
I think
for
you
that.
did bloody well.
So something happened and I got a bit upset and I didn't know why I was upset and I didn't feel sad, and it certainly wasn't anything to do with the day or you or anything. But I kind of just sat there and I was like, oh, I feel a bit sad. And then two little tears rolled down my face and I thought, it's okay because everybody else has got their eyes closed and so have I. So nobody can see
Permission
it.
to be sad.
So it's fine. So it's okay.
What if they did see it?
Oh, I don't know. That would have been a whole different thing. But they couldn't. And I didn't know what it was. Oh, it's okay. I'm
They're
not
having a
sad.
lovely hug now.
Oh, that's
For those
sweet.
that can't see.
But it wasn't like anything dramatic had happened. I just felt like settled into the day. But it weirdly, although it was kind of the most least stuff of the stuff we did, it's something
awoke.
or something settled.
Something settled.
Or something happened. But I felt
Yeah,
much
yeah.
more settled after that.
It can feel
that
a bit emotional.
That practice.
One of the expressions I use quite a lot when I'm guiding a sitting meditation is coming home to ourselves. And when we actually feel that settle, that coming back into our body, into ourselves, I don't even know what you call it.
Yeah, coming home.
Coming home,
Yeah,
it can
yeah,
be a bit
yeah.
emotional because it's like a long lost friend you
Yeah.
haven't seen for so long.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, where have you been?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's really nice to be back.
She'd also been really moody 48 hours before that. So maybe that's what it was.
I did have horrendous PMT.
I mean, frightening. So maybe it was like, my PMT subsided now and I can just be myself.
Now I'll just sit here quietly hemorrhaging on the floor.
And crying.
And crying.
It's okay, no one can see.
I also noticed that I'd stopped thinking about my sandwich while we were doing the walking meditation.
I swear to God, food is like
the sandwich.
Someone had their lunch in the first break.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah.
And I was jealous of her.
I felt so panicked for her because I thought, well, what are you going to do at lunch?
I thought,
I hope she's got another meal.
I swear, all the food is like, I mean, obviously on a 10-day retreat, you can imagine the food.
God,
I do 5-day silent retreats every year.
Wow.
And the food, it's all about the food. You should see it, we're like animals.
So I did feel like my sandwich, and it was really keeping me going because it was like a Gale-seeded sourdough and it had smoked salmon in it. I was really excited about it. I thought about it a lot. But when we sat down, I stopped thinking about the sandwich. And you did a lot of you said something like, just breathe in, just take one breath or something like that. And you just kept repeating it.
Yeah.
It's just one breath. It's just one this. And every time I drifted, I thought, it's okay. Because the next time I take an in-breath, I'll just come back.
That's exactly it.
And then I did 3 breaths and I went off again. And I was like, it's fine. You're supposed to drift because the next time I breathe, I'll come back.
What I find so interesting is where you drift.
Oh, I can't.
Well, that's
it was so
random.
I went from a sandwich to pickles to my brother-in-law making pickles to Christmas Day to
all of it.
I went
There
everywhere.
was one comment that you said, I think it was in the body scan, you said just be here now. And then I started to think about Oasis. And then I started to think about how I couldn't get tickets to Oasis, but now I have got tickets to Oasis. And then I started to think about Taylor Swift. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And then it was like all the concerts that I'd been to.
Monkey
and then
mind.
And then you would say something and I would come back to my breath.
Yeah. But you know that meditation happens at the point where you notice you've become distracted and you come back. That's what meditation is.
Oh, I didn't know that, but I do now.
It's that point of contact of, thinking about Oasis, coming back.
But whatever you said at that point, I just found it really helpful because you kept reminding me.
It was a begin again. So each time you come back to your breath, you begin again.
Begin again. And
but
every
you
time
apply
you said
that
it,
to your life.
But I thought, I can't keep needing reminding every 5 seconds, but I did.
Yes, of course. I did. Your mind will always jump around. Even Buddhist monks who've been meditating their whole life will have monkey minds that jump around.
It was really good.
Yeah, begin again though is so beautiful because it can be applied to everything in our life. Like every time you make a mistake, you have the chance just to begin again.
Oh, I love that.
I know. But you practice it in meditation. That's the point. So that's how you learn how to do it.
And then after that, it was lunch.
And then it was lunch and everyone looked very happy.
Well, no, you said you've got an hour for lunch.
And I thought, oh my God.
I went into a bit of a panic.
So did
How did you spin?
Yeah.
I did too.
I did wonder if that was maybe a little long.
And I thought, and I wished I'd brought more food.
Well, it's just more to distract you though, isn't it?
That's what I meant. I was like, fuck.
And I thought there's nothing to read.
No.
There's no phone.
That's
no one to
why
talk
it's
to.
so good.
An hour.
I know. I wanted it to be hard.
Yeah.
And I told Nicole
I wanted it to be
got so
difficult.
excited because I had these like Marmite corn chip crisp things and there was like the back of the packet to read. And I had like 25 seconds where I read the back of the packet.
There's very funny jokes about the retreats where people are reading jam jars and stuff.
Yeah, because it's like something to do.
Yeah.
Because my main thought of the whole, apart from when Nicole came to try and sabotage
during
me,
lunch,
I did see that.
she
by the way, I was
sabotaged.
watching.
She tried to sabotage me.
No, one little glimpse.
I was watching. I was laughing to myself.
And we both went,
funny.
didn't we? No, you didn't.
You were facing the window.
Yeah,
I
I turned my whole body away from you. Basically, Nicole came to sit next to me. She had her lunch away from me. I had my lunch.
My back was to
Then
you.
she made a tea or something. And then she came and sat right next to me. I thought, you fucker. What are you trying to do? So I left.
I was being playful, and Jo was encouraging us to use playfulness.
And I knew exactly what you were doing, and I had to go.
But you know, there is the hour lunch break is long.
Yeah.
It is. But we crave quiet, right? We crave peace and space. And when we get it, what happens?
Yeah, we don't like
I
it.
actually had a really nice time with myself.
Did you?
Yeah. I actually decided by the end of that lunch break that I really enjoyed my company.
Ooh, that's nice.
It really was very nice. I was quite busy with my own thoughts.
What I felt
really was.
What I felt this morning was when I'm home and doing that, or I'm home and I'm silent.
You're doing.
No, but I will often sit down and I will have a tea or have my lunch or whatever, and I don't have the TV on and I don't have anything. I thought if I'd had a book with me, I could have sat there for 7 hours. no problem and just read a book. But it was the having nothing. And I thought the thing I don't like about this lunch break is that I'm with all these other people. Like if I was alone and told to be in silence, fine. But I couldn't chat to you. And I couldn't chat to anyone else.
And there was a very diverse group of women who all have a story, I'm sure.
Interesting.
And they were all interesting. And it would have been lovely to sit and, chew the fat with all of them, because we would have learnt so much about each other. But, and at the same time, I still felt very connected to all of these women. I really did. It was very interesting.
So ironically, although you would think, in theory, oh, well, the meditation and the practices are going to be the hard part of the day. They're not. They're the easy part because you're being told what to do.
Something.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So we're not good as human beings. We're better when we're human doings.
Yeah, of course.
But it doesn't serve us.
No.
And there's a balance to be struck. And that was the theme of the day, wasn't it? Balance. So, maybe an hour was extreme and maybe it's difficult when you've got no distractions. But if you don't create challenges like that on a retreat day, there's really no point.
Yeah.
It's like that. You're going back to your everyday life in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
This is the chance to really go there, be uncomfortable and really be curious about the discomfort. What's arising here? Why am I uncomfortable? It's you're befriending yourself. You're getting to know yourself better.
Yes, absolutely. It was amazing. And then after lunch, we went for a walk in the woods. Those woods, can I just say, magical.
Your local woods are stunning.
They are magical. They are, but they're historic woods.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. They're ancient historic woods. And we're very blessed.
It was like a film set from Harry Potter.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it?
Beautiful. And I couldn't work out whether I was just sort of seeing things in a more enlightened way, or they were particularly beautiful woods.
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
Because you're paying attention and you're not plugged in to a podcast, you're not listening to anything, you're not talking to anyone.
Yeah.
You haven't got the dog to think about. You didn't have to think about the route.
Yeah.
And in the past, I've not done it like that.
I would have been so stressed because I do get lost.
Yeah. And they're very easy to get lost in.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I said to people, if you know the woods and you want to meet me half an hour, that's fine. And actually no one took that opportunity.
We all walked in a line behind
We walked in a
other.
line. Obviously, I had to set the pace.
It wasn't weird, though, walking in silence with 10 women.
Well, see, some people found it really odd.
Did
and
they?
That's what's so fascinating about these days.
Yes.
It's so individual.
Yeah.
Like everyone has different moments where it's uncomfortable, where they're finding there's so much being revealed, or they're loving it, or they're hating it.
So much came up for me in those woods because I started and I was right behind you.
Yeah, and then you ended up right at the back.
Well, I did that really intentionally because I suddenly realised, why am I up the front? Jo said I can take this at the pace that I want to go at. Why has my pace always got to be first or the best or trying hardest?
It's so you.
I'm always pushing forward.
Yeah,
always pushing forward. And actually, what would it be like to be at the back? Well, this is the day to find out. And, I really tried to get to the back, but I couldn't do it because you then stopped at one point to make sure that you had everybody. Yeah. And I thought, oh no, I can't have her waiting for me. I couldn't bear the thought of anyone waiting for me. So I was like 2 from the back and I stayed there. You sped up and took over me at one point.
I was ahead of Jo at one point. I was at the front.
She was. And then she realised she didn't know where she was going.
Yeah, no clue where I was
and dropped
going.
back.
Yeah.
It made me chuckle.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to sort of intentionally try and be lost and try and take it as slow as possible and do so, because I knew it was uncomfortable and I wanted to put myself in that position.
I'm never interested in being first or fastest or best at anything. It's just I'm just not competitive by nature, so it wasn't that for me. I think I ended up at the front because, truth be told, I really didn't want to go on the walk because I had this feeling, we were so cozy in your house and I had this feeling it was going to be cold and I hadn't brought like warm enough clothes. So I ended up taking the blanket that we used and I wore it as a scarf and it wasn't that cold.
No, it really wasn't yesterday.
And it was so beautiful.
It was beautiful.
And I realised the second we were walking, I was like, this is the most normal, accessible, natural thing ever because this is something I do every single day.
Yeah.
I know I'm with the dog, but I'm alone. I'm in the woods. I understand this. This is my day. This is my everyday life.
This is my comfort zone.
And I was so comfortable. I think that's why I was at the front because I was like, yeah, I'm here. This is my place. Oh, this is meditation. Oh, this is great. I know this.
I can do this.
I can do this.
I can do that.
And it was lovely. It was my favourite part of the day for so many reasons.
Mine too.
But so revealing, in that the things that you don't feel so confident about and don't feel so familiar with are so uncomfortable. There's a lot in that, and there's, you know, because when we choose to be more curious about experiences, they feel very different rather than that kind of initial. You know, we might have that initial fear and panic. But if we say, okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know anything. I'm just going to be curious about it. It has a whole completely different flavour.
It was a beautifully held day.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you are an exceptional facilitator. And I'm not just saying that because you're sat in front of me. You really are.
I even wrote words about you last night. Yeah. Should I tell you what I said?
Yeah.
I said, Jo.
She journaled.
I didn't journal. I was writing the show. Don't push it. Journaling. I said, Jo held the space with confidence, calmness, authority and kindness, and was able to meet the various needs of all the people in the room. And then I only sent one text to Nicole later that night, so I felt like I behaved very well.
We did behave well.
No, we did. We did.
I have to say, when I came home, I had the most terrible headache.
Oh, did you?
I felt dreadful last night, and I went to bed at 8 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah. I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted.
I felt the opposite.
And I had a migraine, and I put myself to bed, and I've woken up this morning and I feel really bright in mood. And don't you think I seem bright in my mood?
Yeah, you do, which is why I was surprised with the other information you gave me.
What, that my HRT
earlier,
is not working? I know.
I felt the opposite. I went home and I felt really relaxed and really energized and much better. And I made dinner for everyone. I was in a good mood. And this morning I spoke to my mum and she was like, "You sound better today." I was like, "I haven't got PMT." But also, I do think it was really nice. It was really restful.
Yeah,
Yes.
restful. Yeah. I mean, it's hard work, but ultimately it's restful because you're out of the usual, you know, demands and roles and responsibilities and presenting yourself in a certain way on that in a constant basis and fixing and solving and all of the stuff that we're doing all day long. We need a break from it.
Yeah.
We need to just be us.
I also think, and I know it's a word that you've used many times intentionally, it is so revealing. And I think it is, I got more information about myself yesterday than I did from 6 months of therapy. I really did.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
It was about 3 months for therapy.
That's a very big statement.
Well, I mean it. I really mean it. It's a practice that really helps me. I don't know why I don't do it. Yeah.
Know where I am.
I know. I said to Lauren on the way down, didn't I? I said, I think I'm going to book a session with Jo to do that pain meditation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's remarkable.
Okay.
It can be. I mean, again, it's hard, but it's a practice, and it isn't an overnight. It's not taking Nurofen. It's a life skill that you learn and you practice.
I think the thing is, Jo, for me, we've worked with a lot of practitioners
We really have.
over 5 years, like a lot. And just the way you held the day and how it was divided up, so nothing felt too much. It was like, we're doing this and then we're moving on to something else.
Yes.
Nothing felt overwhelming. Nothing felt too much. Nothing felt, I can't do this, or stressful. And just the way you held everybody in the room I was just so impressed by it, really, by you even more than the day. But I just think you're really skilled at what you do. Like, you're in the right job. That was how I feel.
I found my calling. I found my calling. Thank
Yeah.
you for saying that. No, I love it.
Yeah, and
It
it shows.
shows.
It shows that you love it.
It
Yeah,
shows.
it gives me the most immense amount of joy to do what I do. And I feel like I'm serving. And that is what I'm
You
here
are.
to do.
You are.
And it comes from deep within, this need to serve, not need to serve, this desire to serve, this calling to serve. And it for me, I can't imagine doing anything else now.
Please don't.
Funny,
don't.
because I spent 16 years serving, birthing women.
Yeah.
You know, I've done that. And I've spent up to 36 hours sitting in a labour ward with no food and no distraction and no book and no TV, just listening to contractions. And there's nothing you can do. And you learn slowly but surely how to be and not do.
Yeah.
Because your job is just to be. Just be there, hold space, don't speak, don't do anything. You don't need to do anything. Yeah. I did that for such a long time and I don't do it anymore. And so the whole thing about like the relief of not performing and then realizing actually that's not comfortable for me anymore. I don't want to be the person who's silent, holding space for you. I don't want to be serving everybody else all the time, all my life.
Done it.
And I think that was the really revealing thing for me, was like, you've served, it's done.
Good.
You know?
I love that you came to that conclusion.
Jo,
Yes.
how can people work with you and find you? What are your details, please?
Thank you so much for asking. So the company I run is called the Breathe Academy. I say company, it's just me. But I have a weekly newsletter that I do every Sunday morning, which gets lovely feedback, and it's really light. So I do something to make you smile on it, things to attend, which might be mine, but could be anything online. It could be some things in London or around the country. I do a good news story every week. I give quotes, something to consider, and all sorts of poetry and stuff like that, which obviously we didn't mention, but I did a lot of poetry yesterday.
You did read a lot of poems yesterday, yeah.
And that's one way to see what kind of things I've got going on. I'll do a retreat day next spring for sure. I'm also thinking of doing some taster sessions. So that's all on my website, the Breathe Academy.
The Breathe Academy.
.com.uk, I think. Yes.
We'll put it in our show notes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And and I do one-to-one MBSR programs, which is the 8-week program we talked about. But I also offer a 4-session deal of £225 for 4 one-hour sessions with me. And then we work the dates out according to your schedule.
Great.
Some people split that into half-hour sessions. So there's 8 half-hour sessions. So I can work with any particular issues going on. I've got a lot of those going on at the moment. And I work in nurseries. So I work with little ones.
Oh, that's so
cute.
sweet.
2, 3 and 4-year-olds. I do work kind of with mindfulness with the kids.
Yeah.
And I work for an occupational therapy organisation. It's a private mental health occupational therapy company, and I go do one-to-one. So if your family member might need more structured kind of mental health support, they can go to Purpose People, and I'll give you the website for that.
Thank
and
you.
I work via them as well.
Jo, thank you. Thank you for yesterday. And thank you for coming on the show.
So much for hosting us.
Such a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Such a pleasure.
That's our show. If you want to be in touch, hello@selfcareclub.co.uk, and we will be back next week. Don't forget that our Friday show has now moved over to our subscription, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, and we will be back next Monday with a brand new episode.
Bye-bye.
Did you know that the most prolific serial killer in modern history was born in Britain? Were you aware that nearly 2 murders happen every day in the UK? My name's Stuart Blues, and I'm the host of British Murders, a true crime podcast focusing exclusively on British murder cases and serial killers. Every Thursday I tell the detailed story of a British murder case within the bite-sized time frame of 15 to 30 minutes. That's British Murders, available to stream on your favourite podcast platform now.